Get started. Thank you all for joining the February 23rd Louisville City Council study session meeting. I am Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Maloney. Because of COVID-19, this meeting is being held electronically and is being recorded. All attendees will show up in the attendee panel for us to see. Attendees are muted unless called upon to speak during public comments, which we will do after the presentation. To request permission to speak, an attendee must raise their hand by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of the screen. Attendees calling in may enter *9 on your phone and a raised hand will appear on your behalf. When I acknowledge a member of the public, you will be unmuted. Please first state your name, address, and then you have 3 minutes to speak. If you wish to speak on another topic, you will need to raise your hand again, although we're just going to have one topic. Thank you for following these directions and maintaining meeting decorum. City Clerk, please do a roll call.
Councilmember Lipton.
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Lay.
Here.
Councilmember Fahey.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Maloney.
Here. Thank you, City Clerk. All right, so the one agenda item tonight is the discussion on the spring summer reopening plans for the city programs and facilities. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really for us to hear from staff what the plans are. Each director will be doing a presentation on their particular areas. The Deputy City Manager, Megan Davis, will do a preamble. And Megan, you might note to us whether or not the directors would like to be interrupted during their presentation, or they'd like us to wait until it's done to ask questions and make comments. We're really not making any decisions tonight. It is discussion, it is questions, and it's for our benefit to understand what the city staff has done in planning for reopening through the course of the year. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Deputy City Manager Megan Davis.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney. Good evening, City Council. I'm going to take just a minute here to share my screen so that you can see the presentation. It's going to be a little funny there.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Lipton has his hand raised, just so you know.
Oh, thank you very much. Councilor Lipton.
Yes, a quick question. Could we ask questions after each director's presentation so we don't have to wait till the end of all the presentations?
Thank you, Councilor. I asked Megan Davis to answer that question for us. So we'll get the guidance from the Deputy City Manager on that. But it would be my hope that we discuss every functional area and then move on to the next one. So any questions we have can get answered in a timely way. Thank you.
Yep, I think, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Lipton. I think that makes sense. So we'll go ahead and I'll just give you a quick introduction, then I'll turn it over to Nathan and we'll kind of go section by section, and then we can take a pause and answer any questions that you might have. And then we'll move on to the next section at the end. Of course, we can respond to any kind of overarching questions or questions that didn't get answered during the presentation. Okay, so we're here this evening to talk about the 2021 COVID-19 reopening and recovery. As you're all aware, this is something that we have been working through for about a year now, and did not expect that we would be in the position we are, with facilities closed and then opening and then closing again, and kind of going through this iterative process about closing and reopening facilities in different ways. Now with the vaccine rolling out and more people in our communities being vaccinated and cases beginning to slow down a bit, we're starting to look ahead to think about what things may look like this spring and summer and how we can gradually reopen some of our city facilities and what that might look like. Let's see. Whoops, I'm having some trouble here. There we go. Okay, you may recall that after the pandemic began in about May, we came to you with some principles around reopening, and these principles have helped guided the work that we've done over the past several months as we've had to navigate the changes in public health orders and the reopening and closing. The principles are in the council communication, and they really center around protecting the well-being of our employees and residents, the economic health of the community, a kind of cautious and careful reopening of facilities and services, a commitment to work collaboratively, a commitment to move forward with reopening in compliance with state and county health guidance, and also recognizing the need for flexibility and nimbleness in implementing recovery efforts. And then, of course, ensuring that we have community outreach and engagement throughout the recovery process. So I really think we've tried to kind of adhere to these and factor these into our decision making to be as strategic as we can, even though we've had to be pretty, again, nimble and responsive. I think everybody is aware where we are currently on the COVID dial. We, as a county, have been moved. We have a kind of new metrics on the dial, and I've included some of that information in the document, and we've been at level yellow concern for the past couple of weeks, and we continue to be at that level. You can see what's allowable in terms of capacity within each of the levels. All right. So are there any questions generally about reopening before we move to some of the specific facilities and programs and services? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Director Nathan Mosley, who will talk about the Recreation and Senior Center.
Thanks, Megan. Good evening, City Council members. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As Megan mentioned, I'm going to provide some highlights regarding the Recreation Center, Senior Center, and Memory Square Pool of the material that's in your packet tonight. And then Kathy Martin and I are here, so please, stop us anytime to ask questions, and hopefully between the two of us, we can answer any questions you might have. So as Megan mentioned, we have seen new cases and positivity rates going down recently, and that has led to an uptick of users at the Recreation Center. So we're seeing on average about 350 to 450 people a day coming to the Recreation Center. And on some of our busier days, we're kind of exceeding 600 people a day. So we're really excited about that. Currently, we continue to increase our programs and capacity to meet this demand based on public health guidance from the state and Boulder County Public Health. Based on those increased capacities, we are only requiring reservations for pool access and classes. This was meant to just make using the facility easier. So use of the facility is available on a drop-in basis as capacity allows. And over the next couple of months, we plan to roll out additional programming for residents and guests that are in alignment with current public health guidance. And some of those included in the slide on your screen include outdoor youth sports programming, athletic field rentals. We're looking to open up drop-in childcare at the facility 3 days a week. That's certainly been something that we've heard from our guests that they would like to see come back. We also are excited to have summer day camp back again this summer. Registration for that will open up on March 1st. We're looking at additional contractual programs at the facility, also like the Dolphin swim team. We're planning our plant sale in May. We've got Monarch High School allowable sports such as swimming, golf, and baseball. And then we are planning to open up the splash pad at the Recreation Center.
Director Mosley, we have a question or comment from Councilor Brown.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Director Mosley. Not to interrupt your conversation, you mentioned a little bit about the capacity. Can you tell me a little bit about, because the Finance Committee had a presentation, we talked a little bit about capacity at the rec center. It seems like there's been a change in people's usage as it compares to the allowable capacity under the public health orders. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what's allowed in terms of the public health order and how people are using it?
Yeah, I would say that under level yellow, and they did insert a caveat into the latest order, which is included in the memo. So facilities that are larger than 7,200 square feet are able to have additional capacity up to 100 people instead of what is allowed under the yellow level for gyms, which would have been 50. So based on a social distancing calculator, we can have up to 100 people in each area in the facility in level yellow. And then, once we move to level blue at some point, I believe that capacity goes up to 175. And so what was the second part of your question? That might be something more that Kathy might be able to answer, is
Yeah.
regards
Thank
to
you.
how people are actually using the facility.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, I was actually just interested in, given that, 100 is the capacity, what at any given time, how many people are in the facility, I guess? Are we at the full 100? Are we
No,
only
that's
on
why.
Tuesdays at 4 o'clock that we're at 100 capacity? I don't know. That's the question I have. So.
Yeah, I think, Kathy, if you want to jump in, please support me on this. But, based on our conversations, we got rid of the reservations because we weren't hitting that capacity at any given time. And so we wanted to give people that flexibility to kind of come and go. When we had the reservations, you had to show up at a specific time and leave after 50 minutes. And then we had 10 minutes to transition to the next reservation period. So because we have the additional capacity, it kind of relieves the need to be that structured, because we're not really bumping up to that maximum capacity. There might be a few times here or there, so that's where I would rely on Kathy to provide any insight she has on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can just add, I think what you're asking is, are we reaching our capacities in particular areas at any certain time of the day? And the answer is no. We have plenty of capacity in all areas still, and we get that per area. So for example, upstairs on the second floor, we could have upwards of 50 people in the cardio and the weight area at any given time. And then in the natatorium or the pool area, we could have 100, but we're restricting that to less people with our reservations at this point, just due to staffing and social distancing requirements. So the only area that we probably are getting closer to is we have a tremendous number of people coming in for drop-in basketball. So on the hardwood gym, there's times when we're getting close to capacity in that area. But otherwise, we have plenty of room, so come join us.
Thanks, Kathy.
Excuse me.
Thanks.
Sorry, Councilor Brown, do you have another question?
No, I was just going to say, so it sounds like we still have, like, people are still staying away from the rec center a little bit, even though, there's more capacity that we could be filling. So that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Kathy, if you could answer one more question. I'm just curious, in the weight area, what is a typical number we have in there? Because 50 seems to be, in my experience, about the max I ever see in there, although I don't go during heavy times.
Right. Yeah. So even at the 25% capacity limits and the 50% capacity limits, we were limited to 43 people in that area. And we were only occasionally bumping up against that number. The weight area continues to be busier than the cardio area, but we even have capacity in that space as well. And we're continuing to do a lot of group fitness classes outside and also in the turf gym. And so we have things really spread out still. So there could be, we're averaging probably about 45 people per hour coming through the doors. And like Nathan said, between 350 and 450 a day. But you have to put that into context of pre-COVID, we could be upwards of 1,500 people a day, so.
Right, okay, thank you. Councilor Fahey, you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm interested in the rec center numbers, but also in any plans for reopening the senior center. Since the COVID vaccine has been given to anyone who is 70 and up who wants it, and is now open to those 65 and up, I've got my first shot. I'm wondering how we can start offering programming in place in the senior center again.
I think that's a nice lead into the next slide, Counselor Fahey.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. You know, and I will say, at least based on the state guidance, I think it's in the packet as well. There's a nice matrix that they have with all the different capacity restrictions at each level for different types of activities. And so high risk populations, which would still include seniors, are still advised to stay home in level yellow. But we do recognize that more and more people are getting vaccinated. It doesn't mean that social distancing or masking won't be required, but we do want to start providing additional amenities and resources for our seniors. So with that, we do plan to provide additional limited in-person programming that is consistent with what's allowed in level yellow, and those would be by reservation only. And there'll be limited numbers and capacities, and additional public health and safety protocols will be in place. And so some of those programs include computer usage, access to our lending library, the Bloomin' Senior Garden Club, our book club, Loving Hands Craft Group, and some drop-in art club stuff. And then we're also continuing the lunch side or the curbside lunch pickup. And so we'll be monitoring health guidelines for potential or for future reopening of the congregate mill site once we get word that would be appropriate. And then April 1st, we'll continue to add more classes and programming by reservation only and that are allowed by the current public health guidelines. So we're just evaluating that all the time, and we'll continue to look to provide additional programming for our seniors.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions regarding the senior center or
Yes.
programming for seniors?
Counselor Brown has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Director Mosley, so this is there a particular, so you say these are consistent with the level yellow on the dial. I mean, I think that it gives me a little bit of pause given the high risk nature of this particular population for us to be opening the senior center again. I know that, you know, that all care will be taken. And I also know that it's incredibly important for many folks who have been shut in basically since March that we reopen this. So I guess my question would be around, you know, so what are other, is this what other communities are doing as Boulder County Public Health weighed in on the ability for us to open our senior center, and if you could just elaborate a little bit more on some of the safety measures that you'll be taking with this particular programming.
Yeah, we've definitely been in contact with Boulder County Public Health. You know, some facilities have opened more quickly and provide more programming for all people within their facilities than we have. I'd say we've taken a fairly cautious approach, but we also, page 5 of the packet, you know, we're going to have seniors sign in with their phone number and their email. We're going to have them enter and exit the building through the senior center exit. You know, we're going to require face masks, hand sanitation upon entry. We'll have spray bottles and rags. We're going to maintain social distancing. We're going to provide additional time between classes or programming for cleaning. So, you know, we feel like that we're going to keep program numbers low as well to make sure that we can ensure social distancing. So I think between all of those things and just that what we hear from the senior community is that they're really, really interested in
Getting back.
utilizing this type of programming. And just, you know, I think we've mentioned it before, but our number one pass type just for using the facility is our Silver Sneakers pass type, and that's for seniors. So whether we provide any direct programming to our seniors in the community, they are coming out and utilizing the facility. And so we continue to hear from them that they want additional programming, and we're trying to do that within the regulations from the state and Boulder County Public Health. And
Thank you,
Kathy,
Director.
I know you hear it every day, so I don't know if you have any additional comments surrounding senior programming.
Any additional comments, Councilor Brown?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Director. I appreciate you calling out the information in the packet. I think it's important for folks to hear, and I also just appreciate the work that you're doing to keep our seniors safe. So thanks.
All right, back to you, Director Mosley.
Okay. So I think the next slide is Memory Square. So I think everybody's probably super excited on council and in the community to hear about reopening of Memory Square for 2021. So there will be capacity limits, just like with any other programming that we have at Memory Square Pool. And so that will be based on public health guidance. So reservations will be encouraged, but not required at Memory Square. So it'll be similar to how we're operating at the Recreation Center now for just drop-in use. But again, because of the limited capacities at Memory Square, we will be encouraging people to make reservations. We are planning to open early this year, so we're planning to open on May 1st with limited hours for lap swimming, then plan to open up for Memorial Weekend, and then have normal hours after that, and we'll be open through September 26th. So in the memo, we included some key dates, but yeah, we're going to have open swim, lap swim, water aerobics, and then we'll also have some swim team use from specifically the Dolphins are planning to host their practices and their swim meets at the facility. So in contrast to the drop-in at the Recreation Center, which is limited to 50-minute slots, we are going to have slots for an hour and 45 minutes at Memory Square for people to reserve. We feel like that kind of packing up the entire family, coming out to the pool, and we feel people will want to spend more time there. So we are going to provide more hour or a longer period of time for people when they're visiting Memory Square Pool this summer. So not sure if anybody has any specific questions about our plans for Memory Square, but we're excited to get that up and running for the community this summer.
Director Mosley, I had a question. So you kind of, when I look at the what the schedule includes, I feel like there's two categories here. You have like swim team use, and you have water aerobics, which are classes. And
Yeah.
so that will be, if I understand it correctly, that will be exclusive use for those purposes during that time. And then lap swim and open swim would be, whoever shows up until we reach capacity numbers. My question is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about those things, but my question is, that sounds to me like typical use. It's just we're limited by capacity. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal, is to be as close to normal operations as possible. We'll see where the capacity limits land, but right now it's 50 people at any given time within the pool area.
Okay, but the breakdown of use between like when the Dolphins is there or the Monarch school team, they have the pool.
I believe so. Kathy, I'm not sure if you want to, if I'm
Right,
answering it
so-
correctly, compared to the historical, because I've only been here one summer when we had the pool open.
Yeah, so when the Dolphins swim team is there, they will have exclusive use of the pool. And they have very similar allocation of hours as in past seasons for the pool use. When water aerobics is going on, that is a shared activity with lap swimming. So we'll have water aerobics in the diving well and lap swimmers in the main pool. But then I just want to make sure you understand. So the open swim will be by reservations. And then only if we have space available will we take drop-ins. And
Okay.
we're anticipating that we'll probably be full with reservations, as we are at the rec center for open swim. Our reservations fill up quickly for that activity.
All right, thank you, Kathy. So we are moving towards normalcy is really what we're talking about when the capacities move up. Councilor Lipton has a question or comment.
Yes, I noticed in the packet, in the section of the senior center, it does state that face masks will be required. But I haven't heard anything from the rec center or Memory Square pool about the requirement for masking. So I was wondering if Kathy or Nathan could comment on that.
Well, anytime people are inside a facility in Louisville, they have to be wearing a mask. So any indoor activities will require a mask. You know, given the 50% or the 50-person capacity, I believe people will be required to wear masks when they're on the pool deck, but they won't be required to wear them in the pool. Is that how we're currently handling it at the recreation center, Kathy? That's what
Correct.
we're doing.
Yes.
So that's my understanding is how it would work at Memory Square as well. If people are out on the pool deck, they would have to wear a mask, but they wouldn't have to wear a mask when they're in the pool, as long as they can maintain social distancing.
Okay, well, that makes sense. In the rec center itself, we're going to continue the masking.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's on the agenda too for city council I'm not sure when the current mask mandate might expire and whether council has that on the agenda to extend it, or if we're tied in with mask mandates from Boulder County or the state at this point. But yeah, currently it's required indoors and then outdoors if you cannot maintain 6 feet of social distancing.
Yeah, so this is Heather. I would just add, so right now, the way the last mask ordinance was written is that when the emergency provisions are done, which we're not close to being there, unfortunately, then the mask requirements will or could change. But there's no set date. It's so when we feel like we're getting to that point, we'll bring that back to you. But I don't foresee that changing anytime in the near future. And all of these will be subject to those continued mask requirements.
Thank you, City Manager.
Any
All right.
other questions?
No, back to you, Director Mosley.
Well, I think that's it.
You're done. Yes.
Well, at least at the moment, there's some park shelter stuff and some stuff under
Yeah.
special events, but I think we're going to turn it over to Sharon maybe now.
Yes.
Yep, Nathan will be back. That's kind of a good segue. I just wanted, before we kick it over to Sharon to talk about the library and museum, I did want to mention that in the council communication and also in the PowerPoint presentation, there are some sort of schedules, dates, times, some specifics. And just for anyone at home, you know, we want to be clear that things could change as they always have. So things could change, you know, possibly slightly more quickly to reopen, but most likely we'll, you know, stick to these schedules, which again, we're kind of proceeding with caution and reopening. And of course, things could change in the other direction if something were to change with caseload. So just there's some tables with times in there, and don't get too tied to those because you know, we're not sure where things will go. However, we've been doing extensive communication and releasing a new reopening plan every time it changes. That's available on the website, and also doing kind of ongoing communication through the mayor's message and on the website about what the current plans are. So just wanted to get that out there.
Okay. Did you want to introduce the Director of Libraries?
Yes, Director of Library and Museum Services, Sharon Nemechek, is going to give you some updates for those facilities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening, Council. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good. So Megan talked a little bit in her intro about the principles of reopening that the entire city has been following. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of background about how the library's been making decisions during the last 12 months. So every time we look at moving into a new service model, we ask ourselves 3 questions. The first is sort of what's the maximum level of access or service that we can provide in this phase? The second is how can we be part of the solution around COVID and not become part of the problem? And then how can we, or what is our capacity given our current staffing levels? So those are the 3 things that we look at when we look at moving into a higher service level or walking things back a little bit. And I have to admit that I've been probably a little more cautious in terms of opening than some. When you look around the metro area, there's just a huge range of services provided by libraries right now. I think probably the most open library is Douglas County, and they're open with shortened hours. Nobody's really doing in-person programming right now. But for the most part, they're just sort of open with no limits, capacity limits. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Denver Public Library. They're offering curbside service at most of their locations. And then they do provide public access to computers, but they'll bring you a laptop outside. So there is no in-person at Denver Public Library at all. So as you can imagine, most libraries fall somewhere within kind of the middle of that spectrum, and that's where we fall right now. So what we're doing right now, in January, library staff decided to come up with a plan for kind of a steady and thoughtful path to full reopening. So we continued with our curbside service, which we've been doing since last summer. We're continuing our homebound delivery, which we've always done, but has grown, as you can imagine, during COVID. And we're continuing with computer use by appointment. And we added opening the library lobby for grab and go holds pickup, which has been incredibly popular. I think the first day we had almost 300 visitors that day. And then we're also allowing patrons to browse new collections in the lobby, and we've curated some other collections that people can browse while they're there. As we bring more staff on board, we're looking at then this next level of service. So early March is what you're looking at here. So all of the services that we currently offer will continue. And what we'll do next is open all departments and collections for browsing and expand computer use, so you won't have to make an appointment anymore. We'll have computer use open during all open hours in adult and the children's department as well. And then we'll move slowly towards this May opening that will have all of the services that are listed above, expand our hours, eliminate computer use limits. So right now people can be on for a half an hour and there's no extension. Typically you'd get 2 hours, and if no one's waiting, you can be extended. We'd love to be able to offer those quiet alone together spaces where people like to come and study. And we see it a lot, and we just haven't been able to offer that. We'd also like to be able to open study rooms. And then starting in June, we've got a couple of programs planned. You guys know we normally do a big summer reading program kickoff, but typically, I think the last one we did in the building, we had 450 people, which, as you know, is just not going to be allowed, I don't think, inside anytime this summer. So we're planning an outdoor summer reading celebration, probably mid-June. And then we've also booked Steinbach for every Wednesday morning through the summer, where we'll do kind of a story time, music and movement sort of program for families, probably something that people will have to register for as well, even though it's outside. So that's our plan for March, and then into May. What we really are shooting for is that more normal feeling at the library. So we've been delivering collections, we've been offering computer use, we've been doing virtual programming, but what people want, what people come to the Louisville Library for, is that connection, and we feel like that's what we're really shooting for in this May opening. So do you guys have questions for me?
We have a question or comment from Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Thank you, Director and Sharon. I just want to say that I really have the utmost appreciation for you and your staff and how you have navigated the pandemic while still making the library accessible during this time. I don't know what our family would have done without the library over the last year, and the services that you all have provided, the We-Browse, the curbside, and now the grab and go. We've taken advantage of all of those, and it's really fantastic. We sign up for books or we tell you what books we like, and then your staff goes and finds other books that my kids have really enjoyed. So no comments other than just really appreciate the work that you all have been doing, and just what a difference it has made for us, and I know for lots of folks in the community.
Thank you so much. I'll pass that along to staff. means a lot.
Okay, Director Nemechek, I don't see any other questions or comments from the counselors if you want to move on.
Okay, so the Historical Museum, as you can imagine, this is very similar to the library museums. The Littleton History Museum is allowing 50 people an hour, and the Greeley Museum is completely closed. So it's just this real range of services. So right now the museum is doing virtual tours, which have been really lovely. We did preschool classes, we've had second grade classes, we've had families do virtual tours. But what we're really looking forward to is reopening. So in, I think the first week of March, we'll reopen for in-person tours. We're looking at a limit of 10 attendees per tour and not limiting to households. I think last time we were open, we did limit to 2 households. So what this is going to look like is the museum staff are going to probably stay outside. We've created these handouts where people can do self-guided tours in each of the buildings. And we'll, you know, the buildings are so small that when you use the social distancing calculator, you can have like 1.25 people in each of the buildings. So we'll kind of allow people to go in and spend as much time as they like and move the tours through that way. And then in May, we're hoping to open for drop-in visitors again with limited capacity. We'll resume walking tours probably in June. And then we'll still keep the ability for groups to schedule tours.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I guess we'll move back to, thank you, Director
Thank you.
Nemechek. We'll move back to Director Mosley for parks, pavilions, and shelters.
Thank you. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So last year we did just allow use of park pavilions and park facilities on a drop-in basis. And so we did hear from the community that people would like to be able to make reservations. And so we are going to make those available in 2021 based on current public health guidance. So we will begin taking reservations starting on March 15th for the summer, with rentals actually beginning on May 1st. So currently, and even into the level blue, personal gathering sizes or personal gatherings have to be limited to 10 people and no more than 2 households. So those will be the guidelines that we will be renting pavilions out to the public for. We also, last year, were able to assist some local businesses in utilizing some of our park space to provide socially distanced classes. And we plan to do that again in 2021 at the parks mentioned here, Community Park, Memory Square, Annette Brand, and Cottonwood Park. And then we also were planning to open up the splash pad at Community Park, opening Memorial Weekend. And based on the social distancing calculator, we can have a maximum of 4 people utilizing that amenity at any given time. So, and then it does look like the Steinbach Pavilion is going to be available for scheduled events. And that's going to be under the outdoor event guidance that is dictated by the state. Does anybody have any questions regarding?
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Emily Hogan is going to be talking about the special event. Emily, are you on?
I am. Thanks, Megan. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Emily. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, council members. For the 4th of July, the city has funds budgeted for fireworks, but does not plan to host the usual on-site events like fireworks viewing, food trucks, bounce castles, and more due to restrictions on gatherings related to COVID. The city will encourage residents to view the fireworks from their home or go to one of several viewing spots across the city. And we will do a communications campaign in the lead up to 4th of July, conveying all of this information to the community. For summer concerts, the events will be required to go through the special event permit process and will be subject to any restrictions based on the current level in the state's COVID dial on the day of each event. The Cultural Council is interested in hosting these events in person if possible, and is currently considering how to control the numbers of attendees and monitor and enforce social distancing. The LCC will continue to discuss and explore options for the summer concerts. For Labor Day, staff is still assessing potential scenarios. It is likely that in-person events that cannot be managed through registration will be canceled, and the city will consider alternative events like a car parade throughout town. Staff will know more as we get closer to summer and will plan accordingly based on current public health restrictions. So those are really the three special events that the city manager's office usually manages. I'm happy to answer any questions on those.
Thank you, Emily. Can you comment on those special events that are not city events, but they're are hosted by other entities such as the DBA or the chamber, things like that? Are you prepared to do that?
You know, I know I will, I believe Meredith.
Yeah, Meredith that's the next slide, special event permitting.
Oh.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Meredith can speak to those.
Okay, Councilor Dickinson has his hand up. Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I guess, sorry if I missed it, but wondering if we have, with so many uncertainties, how long we can wait before we're making decisions. I know that, some entities are, canceling things in September today. Do we have any sort of guide for when we have, maybe it's different for each one. Touch truck is probably less preparation than some other things, but do we have a sense of timing or how long we can wait on some of these items before we cancel in the hopes that things will have gotten better by the time we actually get to the event?
So this is Heather, city manager. I think we're continuing to refer obviously to state and Boulder County guidance to help us around, what's allowed. So what we're saying, and Meredith, you can jump in here too, specifically on special events, we're telling people, they need to plan based on current guidance. Or if that guidance changes, it'll be specific to what the guidance is allowed when their actual event is scheduled. So there could be some changes there. 4th of July, I just wanted to mention too, drought could play a piece in that as well. If it continues to be dry, we may make different decisions about fireworks as well. So, all of it, as Megan said at the beginning, all of this is very tentative. At some point, we will have to make final decisions. And I think some things could also get moved. You could do later in the season potentially too. So I think we're trying to be as flexible as we can. But yeah, eventually on some of this stuff, we'll have to make some final decisions probably in the next month or two. And I would just say touch a truck's probably going to be view a truck or see a truck, because you won't actually get to touch the truck. So we actually talked about, we got to come up with a snazzy name for that, which I am not good at. So we have much more equipped people to do that, but it won't be touch a truck. It'll be a different title. So just to be clear on that one. So
I'm hearing we need to start encouraging the concept of 4th of August.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Councilor Dickinson, did that answer your question?
Yes and no. I think just trying to understand the how we decide when to cancel something in advance. I understand, the day of the event, obviously you can't do anything that's not allowed based on certain precautions, including drought. But again, are we, the Labor Day Fall Festival isn't until September. I'm just curious when we need to make a decision, how much planning and how much time we need. So, obviously we can't go until the Thursday before Labor Day weekend to decide whether we're doing it or not. At some point we have to be proactive, make a decision based on the information we have. I'm just wondering, how much lead time we feel like we need as a city on some of those things. And I think it's just a hard question to answer. So, and they're 4 different events and there's different things in each one. And so it might be an unfair question to get a simple answer to.
Yeah, so I guess just to further clear, so I guess based on this, other than Labor Day, we're planning to move forward with these things with limited capacity based on the limits that are currently out there. Those may expand. If those expand, I think we'll probably come back to you. So what is it now? It's February. So, maybe probably by May, June, we'll need to make some decisions about Labor Day, again, to the extent that we can. but also to allow for planning to occur. As soon as, and we'll start to think about that more in the next month or two.
Okay,
Especially
I
Labor
appreciate it.
Day. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilor Dickinson, and thank you, City Manager. All right, so no more questions from City Council if we want to move on to the next item.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, so my office does the special event permitting, and we have been reaching out to, well, answering phone calls and reaching back out to people who rolled their event over from the previous year. And basically the answer is we'll take special event permits right now. They are conditional based on, you'll have to prepare for wherever we might be on the COVID dial at that date. You also must submit a COVID plan that protects the safety of your participants and your staff and the public. At this point, we're telling people, the current guidelines are, if we reach green, you could have up to 500 people for an outdoor unseated event. That's most of what we get. We're talking running races, fundraisers, the street fair, for example. So at this point, we're saying it looks like the most you might be able to have is 500. That could easily change 2 or 3 times between now and August. So we're telling people to be pretty flexible on that. But we're also saying that if you plan for 500 and your event's in June and June rolls around and you're in blue, you're only going to get 250. So it's really up to them to decide how they want to handle that. Most of the events that we permit are either fundraisers and fundraisers or for-profit events. So it's really up to them to what they want to decide makes the most sense for them to do this year. Like I said, we had a handful of events that rolled over from last year. We just kept their permits on file and we said we'd look at them this year. Most of those are running races. I have gotten inquiries from beer fests, running races, and wine fests for this year, but no one has submitted anything at this point. So I will say regarding the chamber, they have told me they're not doing the taste. They may consider doing their beer fest in September, but decision will be made at a later date. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have one quick question. So do we have any, so it sounds like you have a lot of interest and everybody's ready for normalcy, but do you have anybody who's actually canceled?
No, more likely what I've had is people who haven't applied. So
Okay.
that's
All right.
kind of what I get, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Well, let's move on to other city facilities.
Okay, we wanted to just give you kind of an overview of what's happening at some of the other city facilities that provide services but might not have as many programmatic elements. And right now in level yellow, these facilities, which are, contain a lot of our office space as well, are largely open with limited hours for in-person services by reservation. And City Hall has been open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to noon by appointment. And the police department has been open Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 to noon by appointment. City Services has remained closed to the public. City Services, as you can imagine, between the police department and City Services, we have the largest number of city employees that are not able to work remotely. And so we've been pretty much fully staffed up with in-person services or in-person kind of activities there at those departments. And I will say those facilities and departments have done just a really excellent job of managing the public health and safety protocols. I just want to compliment them because I know it hasn't been easy for folks who are coming and going every single day, wearing a mask all day long, every single day while doing sometimes strenuous work in the field. So it's been, they've just done a really great job of keeping those facilities safe. So for City Services, we want to continue to keep that closed to the public. It doesn't typically provide a lot of in-person public services anyway, but at least for the time being. As we approach level blue and green, ultimately, we're having conversations with all of the departments and the directors about reopening. And specifically, we're kind of looking towards recovery of the organization in the long term and taking a look at things that worked well during coronavirus and things that maybe didn't work well, things that worked well with staffing, with staff hours, remote work, scheduling staff's work, staggering, potentially office sharing, those types of things to see if there are changes that we want to make as we move forward with the organization. So we're kind of in the process of having those discussions at the department level and the management team level right now. And so we will keep you posted as we roll out, new hours, gradual new hours moving forward.
Great. Any questions on that topic? All right, so we have wrap-up questions and comments. Councilors, have any last questions or comments about this particular topic? All right, we will see if any of the public wishes to make a comment. If you wish to make a comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go back to City Councilor. Councilor Lipton, do you have a question or comment?
I just have a comment. I think staff has done a good job putting together a plan. I like the idea of taking small steps and be able to measure what's going on in the environment before, becoming too aggressive. I think I've always said it's easier to close for COVID than it will be to open. But I think this is a plan that's fairly conservative and scalable. And I think it's worth being the blueprint for, given the information we have now and projecting where we might be over the next 4 or 5 months. So I'm very comfortable with it and appreciate staff, providing it to us tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Lipton. Councilor Fahey, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you. Just one quick comment. I wanted to thank all of the staff. They have done just an amazing job keeping everyone safe and continuing to do their jobs and keep the city running. I'd especially like to point out the innovative programming and activities that the museum has done, that the library has done, and the senior center. I know that one senior in particular who used to be able to go in and do her computer work at the library and was just by the senior center given a laptop and instructions on how to use it. It's so heartwarming to see all of the good work and the outreach that the staff has done to make sure that everybody is happy and safe in the city. And so thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councilor Fahey. So Councilor Lay, you're up next, but the city manager Balzer has her hand up, so I'm gonna let her go first. City manager.
Sorry. Thanks. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to also just thank staff. I would say that the innovation, the creativity, and with the understanding that health and safety are the priority for our residents and our staff has just been so front of mind. And I'm just impressed every day, and it's a privilege to work with these folks and be part of this community. And everybody's doing a great job, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's really exciting. But I also think we've learned a lot, and there's some things that'll continue because they've been new and innovative, and they've met the demand from our constituents. So I can't thank staff enough. It's their work every day that keeps this working. So thanks.
Thank you, City Manager Balzer. Thank you, Councilor Lay, for your patience and letting me jump over you. You're next.
Not a problem at all. Just wanted to echo how proud we are of the staff for the work that you've had to do and the work that you're doing and what you're going to be doing and trying to be flexible, and you've been resilient so far. And I do appreciate very much the city manager's role in this. This has been an extraordinary odyssey for all of us, certainly all of the residents, all of the businesses, employees, and city staff and management. And I don't know if we had it to over again that we would really want to have to go through all of that, but that's why I call it an odyssey. It's not necessarily something we would choose, but I do appreciate all the work that people have done without an awful lot of breaks, in the tension of having to, really respond quickly to limited information. I have said it before, but I think this time in our collective national life is incredibly stressful on everybody. And I think you guys have helped really set a wonderful example of how to make do with less and with a more limited focus and limited mission for a little while we get through it. And it is so nice to actually hear somebody say we can see light at the end of the tunnel. I don't even remember the last time I heard that. And so my hat is off to you. I guess one question that I did have is, or maybe it's more of a comment, actually. We still are relatively young as a recreation center and senior center. I mean, the renovations and all of the work that's been done over there, was sort of interrupted, or at least our big push to get people to come back was interrupted. And I wonder if you all, and this is really a question both for the city manager and probably for Director Parks and Rec, is, how are you going to try to make that new for people? Are you going to try to get them as excited as we had hoped that everybody would be able to get excited about fully opening? And I guess it's a rhetorical question, but I hope you will. I hope that the employees will recognize that this is kind of ginning up for another push, and hopefully we won't have to scale back. But I really do hope that that goes well, because as well as I do and all of us, that we want that to be successful as a enterprise and enjoyable for people to use as fully as they possibly can. So, and I too appreciate all the innovative programs that you got going there and all over the city from all the directors that were just speaking. So thank you very much. Send it back to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councillor Lai. Councillor Dickinson, questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to join the pile on. I don't want to leave it unsaid that, how much I appreciate everything staff is doing. And I think my friends and family are like, wow, being on council during COVID must be crazy. And I think, I don't know, I've only been on council during COVID. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I deflect very quickly to them and make sure they understand how little I have to do compared to how much you all have to do. And it's amazing the work that you have all put in this last year, and obviously the work you put in every year. But this has been a really, really tough year, and almost every staff person I speak to over the last year, it's just kind of like, how you doing? I'm okay. It's a lot, right? And that's every day. You're okay, but it's a lot. And I just so appreciate all the effort that's gone in, and obviously how great our residents have been in making it, relatively easy for us as a community to make the right choices, to follow the right protocols, to close the right things, to open the right things. And people have been very understanding, and I certainly appreciate our residents, but just blown away by how much you have all had to do and had to adjust. And I met with some Cub Scouts yesterday, and they asked me, what are you most excited about next year? And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm excited about so many things. And I think for all of you, I'm excited about us being able to do some of the normal things again, and to get back to some sense of normalcy. It is a long time to be in sort of a panic mode. And panic is the wrong word, clearly, because you guys have been so measured. But it's a long time to be in crisis mode. And so I'm really hopeful for all of you that you get back to some more normal times. And my counselors have been on longer than I'm excited to get experienced normal council, and see what that looks like in this coming year. But I think that's it. Thank you so much for everybody's effort.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. So just so you know, this is the new normal. I think everything has been said. I want to thank the staff and, a year ago, Councillor Lipton said it's going to be easy to close things, it's going to be hard to open things back up. And we had a study session tonight on that very topic. And not only are you having to react to what the county and the state are setting up as rules, you're having to try to meet the expectations of us as the politicians and the constituents all across the city. So, riding those waves is something I think the staff has done really well, and you've played the cards you've been dealt very well. And we appreciate the time and effort you put into putting together this presentation, because I'm sure the other counselors like me get questions all the time. Well, when are you going to do this? And when are you going to do that? And, this helps us support you, because we can answer those in a very informed way about when it will be possible for having, browsing in the library, or when, you can just go to the Memory Square pool and so forth. But knowing what people can do between now and then. So I want to just echo all those things and thank you very much. So with that, we will wrap up that topic and we'll move on to the advanced agenda and identification of future agenda items. City manager or deputy city manager, did you have any comments?
Nope, nothing, unless you have any questions. Nothing.
No, none for me.
Okay, so counselors, do you have any questions or comments on the advanced agenda? Really? Councillor Fahey.
I just have one very broad comment, and that's that as we are getting vaccinated, I, for one, am going to start traveling again. And so maybe we could arrange something in the schedule where there's some time off when we can all go visit family or go to Cancun or wherever it is we would like to visit.
Okay, so what was just brought up is a 3-week break. So
Yeah.
we currently do not have June 22nd, 29th, or July 6th scheduled. It actually works out to be 4 weeks if you count the edges of both of that. So I would also ask that the chairs of each of the committees consider not scheduling meetings during that period of time. So there is a complete break for council and staff during that period of time. And the intention of that is to meet exactly what you're looking for, Councillor Fahey, and I hope that works out for your potential travel plans.
Thank you.
Councillor Lay, did you have a comment or question?
I did. I was looking for the date that we're planning as a result of our meeting of the EDC last week to bring the Main Street issue before council. Oh, there it is. I just missed it.
So April 6th, City Council will have their conversation. I don't know if it's on maybe the last one you got didn't have it yet. We hadn't had EVC on Friday, but yeah, so it'll be planned for April 6th.
Yeah. No, I see it on this one. I don't think it was.
Great.
Thanks.
Right, so just so everybody knows, that is following the March 19th, I believe that's the date, March 19th EVC meeting, talking about potentially thinking about how we think about the EVC and business participation. Councillor Lipton, you have a comment, please?
Yeah, I had just the same question, so I'm taken care of. Thank you.
Okay, one comment I have on March 2nd under the regular agenda, we do have decision direction Louisville Superior Library Service, IGA. I believe that will be pulled off the schedule. Is that correct, City Manager?
Yes. Yep.
All right, so there's no reason actually to have that on the schedule all at this point
Yep.
in time.
Yep. Thank you.
Hello? Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yeah, I have a question. It didn't dawn on me while I was reading the packet or during the presentation, but one of the things, we talked a little bit about City Hall and the return to normal with City Hall. I wonder if we shouldn't schedule a discussion to talk about the possibility of bringing back in-person council meetings at some point.
Yep, absolutely, we can do that. I think right now I mean, if you assume based on the vaccination schedule, maybe that would be fall, to assume that everybody's been vaccinated. So we'll probably, so it's, again, I always have to remind myself what month it is. It's February, so maybe May, June, we'll bring you something to talk about what that might look like. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Okay, yep, thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be good. We can have a principal discussion around the decision tool of making that decision.
Mhm.
Does that sound good, Councilor Brown?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Dickinson?
Thanks. Yeah, I would just like, I don't think it's something for direction, just a report from staff in the next month or so, is where we are with mass vaccinations from a city perspective, what the city is doing, partnering with, either partnering with hospitals or pharmacies or not, or neighboring cities to do some of the, what community vaccination programs that are going on around the country. My understanding from some things I've participated in is, well, we've had a shortage of vaccines for the number of people. Eventually, say March, April, May, we're going to have a shortage of people to do the vaccinations. So, what's the city of Louisville doing, or what's Boulder County doing to address that? And I know they're doing a ton. So it's more, I'd like a report and be able to get back to my constituents about, what our plans are for, vaccinating the public at large when we're in phase 3. And I know that's all, again, in flux, and people are working really hard on exactly those questions, but a report would be awesome soon. Kyle, maybe you can give it.
Yeah, maybe we can, we had the health director give a brief update, maybe so previously, so maybe sometime in, I think phase 3 is maybe April, May, probably May, maybe May, June, I'm not sure. So in the next month or so, we should have more information, and then we can look at when it makes sense to schedule that, so that we have information we can share. Because right now there's still a significant shortage in supply, so we don't have that information. But eventually, that's that light at the end of the tunnel. We'll be having these conversations. So yeah, we can try to put something on the advanced agenda, figure out when the right date might be for that.
Is Boulder County Public Health planning to do mass vaccinations within each of the cities?
I think it'll depend on where there are sites, and again, it'll really depend on supply. So right now, it's kind of hard to have that discussion when we just don't have the supply to even suggest that they're prepared to do that. So I think right now, the larger sites beyond, and Megan Davis can jump in here too, but at this point, they're potentially maybe looking at Longmont and possibly Lafayette. So Megan, do you want to add anything? But again, this is all very, very preliminary, because again, the supply issue is not addressed yet.
Yeah, no, I think that's correct, City Manager Balzer. I think the one aspect that the Boulder County Public Health is primarily focused on with the supply of vaccine that they're getting directly is around the equity issue and really trying to reach those hard to reach populations. And so they're using a number of strategies, including mobile vaccine, vans and clinics where they can try to get out into communities where people aren't going to healthcare providers to access vaccines. And then, as Heather said, doing some clinics in Lafayette and Longmont, and again, sort of targeting folks who may not have access through a primary health provider for vaccines. That's what we're hearing their emphasis is at this time.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, if I read the information that we've received, somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of 70-year-olds and older in Boulder County have gotten the shot. So we do know we have underserved populations, but the older populations are getting it. So we'll need to focus on that as we have more information. And as you said, availability of the vaccine. So very good question, Councilor Dickinson. Thank you for bringing that up. So we will find some place on the agenda, at least as a placeholder, so we can get it in at the right time. Other questions or comments on the advanced agenda? All right, I don't see any hands being raised. So with that, we have nothing left on our agenda other than to adjourn. I want to thank everybody for their patience with the Mayor Pro Tem tonight, who's an amateur at running meetings. So thank you very much. And I want to thank staff again on an excellent job on the staff report that will help us support not only the staff, but our constituents throughout the city. So good night, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Well done.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Bye-bye.